First of all, I just want to put a big thank you out to you right now for taking this last minute. I mean, we had a I schedule these weeks and weeks in advance, and we had a last minute cancellation, and I just tweeted you real quick the other day and just said, hey, what's up? I hope you have some time, maybe come on Design Chat and talk to the design community. It was so cool. Like right away, you were there.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I love supporting this sort of thing and doing these sorts of things in Chicago. Got to support Chicago, so happy to do it.
Definitely, man. Love Chi-Town. We had Carlos Segura on a few weeks ago, and he had great things to say about you. He was talking a little bit about the Seed Conference. Um, okay, so it's one of those things where with how active you are on everything that you do in developing your company and your brand, and you donate your time and you do things like Seed Conference, I would imagine to the majority of designers out there, they have sort of top-level understanding of who you are and what you do. But one of the things I love doing about doing this show is that I get to go and talk to all these people and really sort of dive down into what it is that everybody does and where they're coming from. And one of the most interesting things that I know about 37 Signals at this point is that you guys started as a web design company and then transitioned into a product development company.
Right.
I find that absolutely astonishing, not astonishing, but amazing, and sort of a sign of the times of what's going on right now with creative professionals.
Yeah, we started the business in '99 as a web design firm, and we only switched over to building software about 2004, 2005 because we built Basecamp for ourselves, which is something we needed to manage our client projects. And it turned out that about a year later, after we released Basecamp, it was more popular, or I should say it was making us more money than our consulting business was. So we stopped doing website design for clients. We still do design for ourselves, of course, but we don't do it for clients anymore. And that was a great day when we stopped doing client work. I'm very glad that's behind us.
Yeah, that's just really an amazing story, and
I think you're seeing it more and more too now because um, people are finding out that they typically designers typically know a lot about what they're doing with design, and so instead of doing it for other people, why not do it for yourself too, and take all these things you're telling your clients to do and do them for yourself, and make up your own mind, make up your own decisions, and see what happens. I think you're seeing it more and more now, and I think it's great.
exactly. And so now your company has reached a milestone recently. This year marks your 10-year anniversary. That's amazing.
Right.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Um, so uh, let's back up a little bit. Carlos Segura helped you found 37 Signals in 1999 with Ernest Kim.
Yes.
Where in your professional career, like where did you meet up with Carlos? How did that relationship start?
Yeah, so I used to be, well, let's see. Before I got into this whole web design thing, I was designing FileMaker Pro interfaces. And this was back like in the mid-90s after, well, actually during college, I graduated, I went to college from 92 to 96. So around that time, I was doing FileMaker Pro interfaces. The internet wasn't really around yet. And I forget how it happened, but somehow Carlos, his wife, actually, son, found out that I was doing these things, and they needed some FileMaker Pro work. I don't remember how they found me, but I went in to interview to get that job, a contract thing, and met with Carlos, and that's how I sort of met Carlos. We just sort of kept in touch. Then I met Ernest because I was actually interviewing for a full-time design position at Organic online, and Ernest was the creative director in Chicago. So I interviewed with him, and I didn't decide to take the job, but we kept in touch also. And about a year later, Ernest was sick of working for a big company, so he quit Organic. And Carlos was looking to get into website design because he was only doing print work. And I was already doing website design. So we all kind of shared the same outlook on things, and we decided to hook up and start 37 Signals together in '99.
That's awesome. And so once that got going, and you start, I remember in the first like 3 or 4 years after school, and I started getting involved in design, you start actually interacting with clients. There's sort of a learning curve. There's sort of a learning curve of realization of everything that your job entails and what your relationships, what your professional relationships with your clients start to turn out to be. And something we talk about in Design Chat a lot are the frustrations that come out of that, and how to deal with them, and how to cut some of them off before they happen and that sort of thing. When was your first major oh man, this is harder than I thought sort of moment?
Well, let's see. I was doing a little bit of freelance web design work starting in '95, basically. And the first few projects were actually pretty easy with clients. They were very, very small. I would redesign one or two pages of their site for like, 500 bucks or whatever it was at the time. And that was going pretty well until I graduated college and I decided to take a job with one of the clients that I'd worked for previously. He hired me to be the creative director, whatever that meant, because I was the only guy there. Uh, and moved to San Diego after college and go work for him full time as his web designer. And that's when I started to hate it actually for a while because I liked working for myself and I wanted to work for someone else. And I had to do what they told me to do and design things the way they wanted me to design things. And I'm not built like that. I'm not very good at that. That's when I started not liking web design. Then I quit after about 4 months, moved back to Chicago and started doing more freelance work. And for the most part, the clients I got were really good. I was very selective with the clients I worked with. I had a good feel for who they were, and they had a good feel for who I was. So I didn't really have any major client horror stories. I mean, there's always a few disagreements along the way, but for the most part, they treated me well, and I tried to treat them well too. So I don't have that big sort of nasty horror story, except to say that I'm glad I don't do client work anymore because it is generally a frustrating experience. Not being able to you deliver something you think is good and they don't quite implement it correctly, or you end up not being proud of the work that you do a lot of the time, the end product at least, and that I don't really I don't like that. I want to be proud of the stuff that's out there. I want to be able to share it and say I think this is good, but a lot of the stuff that was implemented wasn't as good. So anyway, that's fun, but I'm glad I don't do it anymore. I'll just leave it at that.
So, in the early days of 37 Signals, was there like, did you even, not even open the doors until you had like a permanent business plan in place? Or was it one of those endeavors where it's like, I know I can do cool stuff. I know I can do this amazing work. I just have to go out there and do it.
Well, so what we did was when we hooked up, myself, Ernest, and Carlos, Ernest had just quit Organic, and one of Ernest's biggest clients, which was Hewlett-Packard, came with Ernest basically. And I think the first job we did for them was like a couple $100,000 or something. It was a huge project, and that funded everything. So we didn't have a business plan. I mean, we didn't really believe in. I still don't believe in business plans or long-term planning at all. We're like, let's get together and build a cool web design company. But our philosophy was different. It was about we were only doing visual design. We weren't doing programming or back-end stuff, which is what everyone was doing at the time. Everyone was full service. And we were just a design firm. And in fact, I'll type this into the chat room here. If you go to 37signals.com slash manifesto, you can look at our original website, which was all text, all black and white, and just a series of 37 different ideas about what we thought was important when it came to design. And so it was very selective. Only clients who got what we were about would even dare talk to us. A lot of them were like, what the hell is this? Where's the portfolio? Where's your client work? We didn't share any of that stuff. We just shared our ideas. So we were able to attract the right kind of clients very early. And with that big, huge initial project, we were able to, we didn't need outside money. We didn't need anything, and we haven't needed it since. So that's kind of how that got started. It was sort of we got lucky with the big project.
Was product development even a glimmer in your eye at that point? Was it even something that was talked about, or was it something that was, sitting in the back of your head, slowly getting started?
Well, before web design, like I said, I was doing FileMaker Pro stuff, and the FileMaker Pro stuff I was doing was mostly for myself. I actually started out, I think freshman year of college, maybe it was even earlier than that, I'm not even sure, I don't remember now. I built this product called AudioFile, which was a FileMaker Pro database to keep track of your music collection, your CDs, at the time your tapes, DATs, all those things. And I remember I made a product, and I put it out there, and I put a price on it. I said $20 shareware, and I uploaded it to AOL. This is before the internet was around, so I put it up on AOL. And a few months later, I got an envelope in the mail from some guy in Germany. And I didn't know anyone in Germany. I didn't know what that was all about. But I opened it, and there was a crisp $20 bill in there with a little note saying, thank you for making AudioFile. And I realized right there that, like, you can make software and you can sell software and you can make money, maybe make a living at this. And over time, I kept getting more and more checks, $20, $20. I was making a few $100 a week at a certain point, and back then it was huge, great money for me. So I've always loved products. I've always loved building products, designing products, and putting products out there and marketing them. So that's always been something I've loved to do. And so when Basecamp finally came around in 2004, it was kind of like rekindling that whole thing again for me, which I really used to love when I was doing the FileMaker stuff.
That's awesome. Um, a couple of notes here. Because we got off to a shaky start, I forgot to mention a few things. For anybody who hasn't been here before, this is DesignChat. We do this every week. We get together and talk to some of the leaders in any aspect of the design community. And we just get to talk about design once a week. You know, it's really fun. It's a free program. Goes out live every week. Very soon we're going to be up on iTunes, available as a free podcast to download. Very excited about that. We're in the beginning stages. I have an episode up there, but it's not open yet. But I mean, we're talking like weeks to like days. It's going to be there for everybody. So this is DesignChat number 26. We started capturing video at DesignChat 13. So there's going to be at least 13 episodes up there for you guys to see very soon. So
Thanks, Sean Pickman, by the way, thank you. I'm just reading the comments and the thing, just commenting.
Go for it. So, okay, it's 20 after. We start a little bit late. We'll talk for a little bit more. We're going to do a refresh in the middle because we have some lag issues from time to time. So everybody can stretch and do yoga or Pilates, whatever you need to do. And then near the end, we'll do the Q&A session, 15 minutes at the end. And like we were tweeting out earlier tonight, we're going to give away a copy of Jason's new book. So let's segue into that. Rework. That's coming out in March. It's your second
March 9th,
book?
2010. Yeah, technically it's our third book. We actually did a web design book back in 2001 or something also.
Oh, it's fantastic. And I saw you were also doing a cross-promotion with Gary Vee. He just got his new book out too.
Yeah, so if you buy one of each, you get a free ticket to a 3-hour Q&A session over the web, and if you buy 5 of each, you get that plus we're going to do a conference next year sometime, Gary and I, and you get a ticket to that as well. We don't have the details worked out yet, just buy the books and we'll figure it out eventually.
Brilliant, brilliant. So tell us about Rework. How does that fit in? Is it sort of a follow-up to your first one?
So Rework, okay, so the last book we did was called Getting Real, which we self-published actually, and that was all about software development. You know, how to build software, how to say no, how to design things, how to program things, how to come up with new ideas, how to market it and stuff like that. But it was mostly about software. And we heard from a lot of people who read it in other industries, you know, people in the financial industry, people in education, people in manufacturing, and all sorts of different industries, publishing as well, saying a lot of these ideas are sort of relevant. Even though I'm not in the software business, these ideas make sense. And so we thought that we'd write a book that was really just about business and not about software at all, but more about our vision of entrepreneurship, building a company, starting it, building it, growing it or not growing it, how to market, how to share, how to get the word out, how to hire, what to decide what to do, a bunch of productivity tips that we figured out along the way. So that's what Rework is. And it's a series, I think there's 50 essays in it, and they range from all the different topics I talked about, and it will be out March 9th, 2010. And by the way, it's a book that you can buy in a bookstore too.
And what a great time for it to be coming out with all these different ways for people to take on sort of, you know, entrepreneurial activities, you know, with very low barrier to entry. And, you know, and then that's exciting for me personally, because that's part of the reason DesignChat even exists. You know, it started as just a Twitter chat once a week, and it was just people on Twitter who liked talking about design, and then we invited special guests, and then we were doing video. And next thing you know, we're on Mashable every week, and it's been an amazing ride. And so what a perfect time for Rework to be coming out.
Yeah, we're pumped. I mean, I'd love to have it out right now, but the publishing business is frustrating at sometimes because it just takes a long time to get this stuff done. We're actually publishing this with the traditional publisher, and they've been excellent. We're very happy with them, but the whole process just takes time. So, and there's different times when you're supposed to release a business book and all these different rules and stuff. So anyway, we're waiting, and it'll be done. It's done, but it'll be out March 9th, 2010.
Yeah, printing and binding hundreds of thousands of books is very different than uploading a JPEG to a server and having your work published right away, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, our last book was a PDF, self-published, and we just kind of saved it and uploaded it, and that was it. So that was definitely a different world, but this time we want to reach, millions of people, hopefully, in all sorts of different industries, people who don't know what a PDF is or how to download a PDF or would never buy a self-published book. So we're going to be on all the bookstores and all the shelves and on Amazon and all that stuff. So it's a different world, but we're looking forward to trying to conquer it too.
So, like I kind of mentioned earlier before we went live, that we do have a little bit of a 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon going on here. Last week we had on Karen Hibma and Michael Cronin from Cronin Design, and they just happened to have worked on the Amazon Kindle project, and they're responsible for having named the Kindle.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, so also cool to know that Jeff Bezos of Amazon is an investor in 37 Signals, and that happened about halfway into your venture there. I'm forgetting what year that was.
I think that was July 2006 that we took. Right. I think it was 2006. We took an investment from Jeff. We've only taken one investment. Jeff was the only one, and we don't have any plans to take another one. But it was great to have someone like Jeff be available to us, and that's kind of why we did it. Jeff is quite a thinker and an incredibly cool person and great guy, and to have his sort of advice and leadership available to us when we need it is the reason why we did that. We're very happy about that.
There was a great line in your site, the sole reason we decided to allow this investment is for the mentorship of Jeff, and right. And that's that's an amazing partnership, I think, there, and I'm sure you're reaping the rewards from that in developing your base camp and high rise and backpack and campfire and all these great products you're putting out.
I mean, the relationship with Jeff is interesting because Jeff's very hands off. He doesn't ask us questions. He doesn't tell us anything unless we ask him, which is kind of how we wanted the arrangement and how he wanted it as well. So whenever we have a specific question, we get to see him a few times a year, and we have dinner and we sit down and talk for a few hours and get some good advice from him and hear what he has to say about things. So it's really enjoyable to sit down with him and talk. He's just such a great guy, and he's really full of energy and full of good thinking, and he's a great listener, so it's been great for us.
So let's get into a little nitty-gritty about your actual products: base camp, high rise, backpack, campfire. These are all sort of utility programs to help you run your business, and it ties in great with things you talk about in your book. So Basecamp was the first one to come out, correct?
Basecamp was the first product, February 2004, over 5 years
ago. And what
ago.
was the process what was the process like in developing that, from the first idea to the first rough draft to publishing it and getting it out there for people to buy?
So the idea was there because we needed it, and everything we built since then is for the same reason. We need it. So we needed high rise, we needed backpack, we needed campfire, etc. Basecamp started just as an idea. We needed something to manage our client projects at the time. It took, I think, about probably 3 to 4 months of actual work. It was spread out over a longer period of time, but 3 to 4 months of work. I hired David Hanmeyer Hansen to do the programming for it. David is now my business partner, but at the time he was just a student at school in Copenhagen, actually, and he was only able to give us 10 hours a week, so he wasn't able to give us much time, and that was good because it forced us to keep the product simple. So we built the basics, and Basecamp didn't do a whole lot of stuff originally. You couldn't even share files with Basecamp originally, the first version. It was just messages, to-dos, and milestones, basically, and that was it. And 4 or 5 months, 6 months of complete total time, and then we put some prices on it and released it, and didn't really have a clue as to how it would do. But it turned out in about 6 weeks it was like really obvious that this was going to work, and so we started focusing more and more and more on it, and eventually we eclipsed we were making more money off Basecamp than we were off consulting, so we stopped doing consulting and started doing Basecamp full time. And then we built Ta-Da List, then we built Backpack, and then we built I think Rightboard was next, and High Rise, and just kind of kept going on like that.
So the sort of, the star went off in the back of your head, and you said, all right, well, we're going to be a more successful company by making Basecamp the best thing it can possibly be. Was it something that you guys were using, like, in your office day to day and just totally relying upon?
Yeah, we were still a web design company at the time, so we had projects. And before Basecamp, we were managing projects like most people do, which is just shooting emails back and forth. And that's sort of okay, but it's not really very good. Um, so we built it to solve our own problems. And we realized that a lot of other small companies just like ours had the same kind of problems we had. And there were some big companies who had different problems, but we weren't going to solve the big companies' problems. I didn't really care about the big companies. I cared about the small groups and the small companies. So we solved their problems, and there's way more of them than there are big guys. So we continue to develop software for small groups and small companies based on initially our own needs. So we put the product out there and then get feedback from people and then make adjustments to the product over time.
Um, I read somewhere that one of the questions that you get a lot is that how do I get my coworkers to stop sending me email? Because we seem to be completely inundated by information all the time, and we've got these long, crazy lists of emails, and and that doesn't even include, if you get on somebody's list and they start selling your email address, and you start getting, just inundated with advertisements and that sort of thing. Um, how does Basecamp, how do your products eliminate that?
They don't really eliminate email because our products use email. When the new message is posted in Basecamp, it's sent to people's email addresses as a notification. When
Mm-hmm.
your a to-do is assigned to you, you get an email. The difference is that most of the communication then is centralized on Basecamp. So we use email as a notification device, um, but really the communication is then stored centrally on Basecamp, which is a big difference between email and Basecamp. Email is decentralized, so you've got like you don't know who's seen what and where the latest thing is and who has got the latest file and who's got the latest comments and where's all that stuff going on. So with Basecamp, it's all centralized, and that's what makes it really useful and makes it something that groups can use and clients can use. And it doesn't matter where you are; you can always get to Basecamp and check the updates on a project. So it doesn't really eliminate email at all, but it does what email doesn't really do, which is centralize information and keep it in a central place.
Um, I think one of the harder lessons that is learned when you start to design something that's interactive um, is the progress of information and when and how other people are going to interpret it rather than how you interpret it. What's the sort of like testing phase? I mean, what are the rough tests that you put your first ideas through?
Uh, you mean when we have a new feature idea for a product or something like this?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Usually it comes from what would we need? What's the bare minimum we would need to like solve this problem that we might have? And that's where it starts. And if we try and do too much, we always mess up. So we always try and do the basic, simplest possible thing we can possibly do, and then we release that, and then we use it, and then we figure out if it's good enough, then we release it, and we recognize that there's probably more stuff that we want it to do later as well, but you're better off getting out the bare bones basic version first so that you can get real feedback from people, and then layer stuff on top of it if you need to improve it. The worst thing we've ever done, I think, is try and release big, huge features where we're just kind of guessing what people want,
Hmm.
and that doesn't really work very well. So we just launched the simplest possible thing we could do just to like fulfill the basic need, and then layer stuff on top of it over time. Maybe weeks or months or even a year later, we'll improve something that we released that was basic at first. But that's kind of the process we go through.
Cool. We're about half an hour in right now, so let's both do a
Hey,
quick
real quick,
refresh.
do you mind if I just jump in and answer a couple questions I just saw in here?
Yeah, let's do it. Go ahead.
Uh, regarding French version, we are working on a localization to allow people to use Basecamp in a whole bunch of different languages. I don't know when that's going to launch, but we're pretty. So I just wanted to throw that in there because I know some people are asking about that. So
Very cool.
done.
Let's both do a quick refresh just to make sure that our feeds are clean. And everybody hang in there for 2 seconds, and we'll be right back. See you in a second.
I'm still here, so if anyone has any questions, I'll happily answer them while I'm waiting here. How do you find quality talent? You know, you have to look at what people have done, and you have to meet these people. and get to know them as people. That's the big thing. You know, I don't look at resumes. I don't care about resumes. I don't care about how many years experience you have. I want to see the work that you've done and then meet you as a person and see if I think you're, you know, a good person and someone who I think I could get along with and we could get along with each other. So that's kind of the real way to find great talent, is to be on the lookout for actual work that's been done and then hook up with them and see how they're doing.
Hello, hello.
Yep.
Cool. We are back. I heard you answering a question there. Do we got a few?
Yeah,
good
I'm just
ones
answering them
popping in?
because they're flying by. So I was just kind of answering them in the intermission.
Keep going.
I love
man.
answering
Keep going.
questions. So I mean, I could do this for 3 hours straight. We could keep going until midnight tonight. I don't care.
If,
I'm
if
up for it.
Mashable allows it, I'm all for it, man.
All right. Well, there's too many questions flying by, so someone's got to pick a few. And if we want to do this, or we would keep going with your scheduled program, whatever you want, I'm up for it.
Let's do a couple more questions real quick while we got the time. What's it like having Jeff Bezos, CEO of Amazon, as an advisor? I kind of think we already talked
we've been
about
through
that
that
one.
one.
Google Wave, opinions, effects on your products. Please tell me you have been playing with Google Wave, because it seems to be one of the most elusive things right now. I can't find anyone who's actually doing it yet. Everyone's like, oh, I think I know a guy who's doing it. Please tell me that you're playing it.
Yeah, I just got my account set up yesterday, and I was playing with it briefly. It's interesting. I mean, I think the technology, the potential is enormous. But right now, it's sort of in this early stage where it's kind of like, what am I doing with this? What am I using it for? So I'm very interested to see how people ultimately use it, and the kind of the third-party add-ons, and how the protocol is used, more so than how is this Wave app that Google made used. But I think this real-time stuff is, you know, obviously it's for real and it's interesting. But I don't think anyone really quite knows what to do with it yet. So it's kind of fascinating to read the reviews, people saying it's too complicated, which I agree, it is too complicated now because there's no use. And when there's no use case that you're kind of familiar with, everything's complicated. So until you can solve a problem, like until you put it up to a problem that you actually have, it's going to be complicated. So over time, we'll see how it
and
goes.
even look at how simple Twitter is to use, and there are people who, like, they see that as too complicated, and it takes a certain amount of time of playing with it and making mistakes and just putting yourself out there until you really understand, you know, the best way you can use it, the best way you can communicate. And then people started coming up with all sorts of ideas of how to use it that weren't originally intended.
Totally, and that's kind of the way I think most things like this happen. It's not like this is how you use this thing. It's here's this thing, and let's see how people can figure out how to use it. So, I mean, I'm bullish on Google Wave. A lot of people think Google Wave is going to hurt our products or whatever, and I don't know. Maybe it will. I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes. But the cool thing about Wave is that it's sort of a protocol. So, you know, we can implement a lot of the Wave stuff in our products if we think it's useful. Campfire is a product that we have, which we use every day, and we've been using for a couple of years now, and it's basically the glue that keeps us all together. And some people say Google Wave is like Campfire, and you know, so there's a lot of interesting things going on out there, but it'll just take some time to see how it all shakes out and what works and what doesn't.
I'll tell you, one of the things that they're doing that's completely outside of their product is the way that they're introducing it to the public. Because, I mean, look at me. I'm like foaming at the mouth because I want to see this thing so badly. You know, because like 6 months ago I saw this video of these amazing things, and I watched this hour-long thing of, oh, it's going to be the greatest thing on earth, and then it's released, but it's not released, and I might see it, but I might not see it. So I'm like waiting on bated breath, like, what is this thing going to be? And they have all of my attention.
Yeah, I mean, that's scarcity. Scarcity is a really powerful tool. It creates desire and want and lust and all these things. You know, when you can't have something that you want it even more, and that sort of thing. So it's a good strategy. But I think the reason they're doing that is not really because of scarcity. They're doing it because technically it's a difficult thing to roll out to millions and millions of people at once. So I think it makes sense to roll it out in small batches first and see how it goes. And it's definitely very buggy right now, so it's kind of, you wouldn't want the whole world to use it yet. It's not ready for that.
Also a very good reason. When you introduce a product, what's the process there? Do you, I mean, I would imagine that you go after the people that are already using your other products. How do you roll out something that's brand new or a new feature?
Well, we typically, for let's say a new feature, for example, we might get suggestions from customers. We might build something that they want, or we might build something we want, or it might be a combination of the two. And we typically put it out there when it's ready. We don't really pre-announce things. We don't. Sometimes we do, but we rarely do. We just put it out there when it's ready, and then we explain it, and we usually go behind the scenes on SVN, on our weblog, Signal versus Noise, and kind of talk about the decisions we made and why we did it this way, and here's some mock-ups that didn't work, or here's some designs that we threw out, and that sort of thing. So we release the news about it in different places for different audiences. On our product blog, we make the announcement of the feature. What does the feature do? What are the benefits? On Signal versus Noise, we usually talk about the behind-the-scenes stuff. And inside the products, we usually link up a quick announcement with a link to the product blog so people can find out more about it. So it kind of depends on where the announcement is, and what the messaging depends on where the announcement is going to be.
Strickland just had a good question. What's the best way to go about changing the culture of a small company?
So I don't know. I don't think that culture is something that you create. I think it's basically, the way we like to think about it is that culture is the byproduct of consistent behavior. Basically meaning that you can't create culture and you can't change culture unless you're actually living it and doing it. It can't be a dictate. It can't be this thing that you say, we're now going to do this. Like, everyone has to be doing it. And then you have culture. So the best way to change is to do it and not talk about it and just do it. And the leaders at the top have to lead, and they have to set the example for what other people are going to do. And if the guys at the top or the women at the top or the people at the top, whoever, aren't doing these things, then it's probably not going to stick. So that's my main suggestion is if you believe in it, go for it, do it, and that'll drive the culture.
DJ is asking, does the price model for high-rise seem to be the most effective to gain new users? Going from free to $50 seems pretty steep. And I listened to you. There was a talk that you gave in 2008 that kind of talked about this. The idea of if something is free, if you're completely giving it away, it doesn't have value. And making sure that your users understand the value of your product. And one of those things like $50. If you're running your day-to-day business, I'm kind of answering your question for you, which is completely rude of me. I'm very sorry.
That's all right. Go ahead.
But it's one of those things, like, it upsets me to see that sort of thought process, because it's like if you're using this to run your business, which is keeping you and other people running and alive and all that, come on. That's
Yeah. Well, first of all, just for the person who asked the question, the first price point in high-rise is actually $24. It's not 50. So hopefully that's a little bit better. It's half the price that you thought it was. So that's good. But yeah, we have free versions of all of our products, so we do believe in having a free version. It's limited, and a lot of people use it, but it's limited. And then we also believe that the better versions of the products are worth paying for. And in many ways, it forces us to make good products, because especially if we're competing against free products, we have to make sure that our products are good enough that people are willing to pay for them. So it's a really good constraint. It's a really good sort of reminder that what we're doing has to be good, because it has to be worth more than the free things. And I do think that people tend to like the things that they pay for more than they like the things they get for free. They are investing in them, they believe in them, they trust them more. And I think everywhere in the world, you pay for your clothes, you pay for your computer, you pay for your internet connection, you pay for your phone, you pay for your food, you pay for the cab, you pay for public transportation, you pay for your car, you pay for insurance, you pay for everything. So it's kind of weird to me that there's this idea that on the internet everything should be free for some reason, or software should be free, and that's what we should be expecting. I think the standard behavior actually is that people are very happy to pay for things that they like. And so we try and give them things that are good enough to pay for.
No doubt, no doubt. I sort of got caught up in some of the questions here, so I'm a little bit off. Wow, they're really flying. We've got 125 users in the chat room tonight, which is a little bit more than we're used to, but it's cool to see everybody here. And it's totally 100%. That's all credited to you, Jason. That's very cool.
Stop it. I'm glad people are here. It's fun to talk. So.
Let's see. You know what? There's so many good questions here. Let's just keep on rolling with this. Usually we wait until the last 15 minutes or so, but I'd say we just keep on going for it. So go ahead and jump into one if you see one. I'm trying to read them as they fly by here.
Whoop, there goes my
iPhone
screen.
versus BlackBerry. Okay.
iPhone apps.
iPhone apps. Do your products have iPhone apps?
So we don't currently make any iPhone apps for our own products, but there are a variety of third parties that make iPhone apps for our products. I think there's like 8 or 9 Basecamp apps. There's a couple high-rise apps, a couple backpack apps, and a fantastic campfire app called Ember, which is awesome. Uh, so other people make them. They use our APIs and they make them. Um, and I guess I can announce now, we haven't said this before, but we're actually working on our own high-rise app. So there'll be a 37 Signals high-rise app for the iPhone. I don't know when it will be done, but we're working on it right now. So that's the first foray that we're making into building our own iPhone apps. That's
awesome.
An exclusive, man. I haven't said this anywhere else, so there you go.
Nice catch, Adam. You know, this is something I'm really excited about right now. Is that I think we're in this period of time where good design is really making headway in getting into applications and interactive things that we use every day, and your products are definitely a sign of that. You know, along with
Thank you.
the iPhone and smartphone things that are going on right now, and it's something that I struggle with quite a bit because I've used a number of different handheld devices, and I've had the iPhone, I have the BlackBerry right now, and there's nothing more frustrating than knowing that there's a piece of information or there's somebody you can talk to out there, but the interface that you're dealing with is preventing you from doing it effectively.
Yeah, and I mean it's frustrating sometimes using our own products because I'd like to do things that our own products don't do. So I share that frustration very intimately, personally, and it's one of the things that drives us, hopefully, to make better and better things, is to make this stuff easier to use and to reduce sort of the frustration that comes along with software. But software can't do everything, nor should it try to. I think that's when software gets really complicated and hard to use, when it tries to do too many things. So, I'm okay with that. There's different tools for different jobs. And hopefully our products do what they're supposed to do, and if people need a lot more than that, then they should probably use a different product, and I'm okay with that too. That makes sense to me as well. So that's kind of our feeling about that whole thing. I don't even know if I really answered that point, but that's kind of what was going through my head at least.
No, totally. Derek just had a great question about do you have a guilty pleasure website that you visit often? You do because you just hesitated. You do.
Well, I'm not going to tell you the one I really visit, but I read Drudge Report all day long. I go to
the masses
Drudge
won't
Report.
go for that.
Right. Well, Drudge Report is a site that I read all the time. It's not like a guilty pleasure, but I'm always on it. I love Drudge Report. I actually think that it's one of the best design sites in the web, and I got a lot of flack for it. It's actually I posted that on SVN. I'll go find the link right now, actually, and post it in the chat. But there's like 600 comments. It was like maybe the most popular post I've ever written. And I believe what I said. So like I'm dead serious about it. Hang on, let me paste that in.
So what is it exactly about Drudge Report that you think that makes it one of the best design sites?
Because first of all, it's one page, which I think any site that's one page is better designed than a site that's 2 pages or 3 pages or 5 pages or 10. I just love the idea of a one-page site, first of all. Second of all, I love that it's black and white for the most part. I love that it's just like a few columns and it's totally messy, but it represents what it is. Drudge Report is just a series of hot news links and things that are kind of like on the cutting room floor, like in a newspaper. And it's just a total mess, but I like that about it. I think that there's something to be said for that. And I think if Drudge Report was really slick, it wouldn't have the same appeal. It has this sort of like, you're going to hear stuff first on Drudge Report because he doesn't care what it looks like, and he's just going to put news up that's new. And I love that about it because it does solve or serve its purpose, and that's what I think is great about it. Visually, I mean, like aesthetically, no, it's kind of ugly, but so what? I mean, that's not what we're really judging here. I'm judging like, does it make sense for what it really is? And I think it makes more sense than almost anything else.
So aesthetically, it's ugly, but it's beautiful because the whole reason that it looks the way it does is because of its function, and I think that's what's beautiful about the design.
And it's very unique. I mean, go to look at CNN, go look at MSNBC, go look at ABC News and Fox News and NBC News. All these news sites look the same. I mean, they're pretty much all the same, right? They've got 1,000 links on them, but they're all trying to cram them up above the fold. They got the big photo, they got the whole thing. And you go to Drudge Report, it's black and white. There's a huge, massive, like 30-point text headline that like leads off the story. or it leads off the main thing. It says Drudge Report in enormous letters, and like that's what it is. And I love that about that it's totally unique and it has its own look. And to me, that's just so valuable to have a unique presence and a unique look and feel that no one else has, even if it's quote ugly, whatever that even means. I would take it over any of the other news sites because it's distinctive, and I think that's important.
A few people that are commenting that Craigslist is sort of out of that same vein, that it's this extremely useful thing and it's all about the text, and they're not spending any time making it pretty or putting flourishes on it or, crowding it with ads or any of that.
I think that this is kind of it could be a long, like a 2-hour show on just this one topic, but I think that like slick is overrated for the most part. I think what's really interesting is if you look at the really successful sites on the web, I mean, let's look at them. Amazon is a complete design mess, I think, but incredibly effective. Craigslist, mess, effective. Drudge Report, one of the most popular sites on the web, very effective. And by the way, it's one guy running that site, and he's making tons of money, so it's a very successful business as well. Yahoo originally, kind of ugly, still is in many ways. Google is sort of, undesigned in many ways. I mean, all these things that are really, eBay is another example. And eBay is a total mess also, and I think it's like really hard to use in many ways, but it's hard to sort of argue with the success of eBay as well. So you look at these things that are really, truly the big successes on the web, and none of them are slick. None of them are designed in a way that like a typical designer might look at them. They're designed wisely, but they're not designed like aesthetically. And I think that's, I think we can't ignore that. We can't ignore that. And I think there's a lot of lessons there.
Where do you think Dig falls into those categories?
I don't read Dig. I don't go there. But I'm just trying to picture it. That's a new one.
It counts.
Actually,
we'll let it go. It counts.
I'll go to it right now. I've never been a big fan of it. Not that it's not a good site. I just don't really. I don't know why. I don't really kind of look at it. But I mean, so I'm looking at it now. Like Dig to me looks like it's actually like there's thought that goes into the look and feel of it, and the colors and the type sizes and that sort of thing. So I actually feel like it's fairly well designed from that perspective. But I mean, it's again hard to argue with the success of Dig as far as traffic goes. I don't know if they're a business or not, if they're doing well. I don't think that they're particularly making a lot of money. I don't know if that's true or not, but I know they've raised a lot of money. But
I think they're going to be an interesting part of the story when we start looking back at sort of the era of Web 2.0 design, and when Apple started putting shiny reflections on everything, and everybody had Web 2.0 logos that all look the same, of the same vein. And I think Dig is going to be one of those groups that came out of it successfully and evolved based on the idea of why they exist. And it's one of those, I'm really anxious to see where they go as a group, not only, as Dig the entity, but Dig the idea, where it's the people who are creating the stories versus that one entity constantly serving you something. And
I agree.
It's one of the things.
I agree. Also, the thing that's successful about Dig, I mean, the whole concept itself, like you said, the idea is being spread all over the place, and I see the little Dig, the little yellow faded box with the number of digs in it, like all over the place. So it's very successful in that way. So I think there's a lot of good things about it. I don't really know enough about it to like really comment on whether or not it works. When I look at a design, I can't really comment until I've used it, because otherwise I'm just looking at the picture and that doesn't really say anything. So I don't really know enough about Dig to really comment on the design, other than to say that it's nice and simple from a visual perspective, and it seems to be working well for them.
Garific wants to know, as a Chicagoan, what are your thoughts on losing the Olympic bid?
So I would have loved to have seen the Olympics in Chicago, but I don't really know why. And I think that's a big problem. I think that's the problem that the city had. I mean, there's a lot of problems. It's probably all just comes down to politics at the end of the day, Olympic politics. But I don't think Chicago did a very good job marketing the games to the citizens. I think they took the citizens' interest for granted. And at the end of the day, I think only half the citizens supported it. And I know that that's a big deal for the IOC. They want the citizens to truly back the bid. So what I would have done if I was in charge, I would have tried to work on a marketing campaign that was all about Chicago 2017. What is the city going to be like after the Olympics are over? Get people excited about the benefits that the city is going to have. Hopefully there'll be benefits, and the building and the construction, maybe the business and the tourism and the improvements to public transportation, the improvements to parks, and all this stuff. Get me pumped about what's going to happen after the games, because the games are short. And yeah, they're going to be a hassle when they were happening, but so it's got to be about the legacy of the games. And I don't think the city really talked much about that at all. And I don't blame people for being upset about it. The taxes were probably going to go up. Public was going to have to pay for it. It seemed like it was sort of mismanaged in a lot of ways. And I don't know the backstory, so it's really not fair of me to comment on what went wrong. But I
It's a
don't
great
think
point,
that
though.
they.
Something that's really strong right now is the idea of getting people to believe in you, and and the idea of openness and having everything out there, and creating strength from numbers. And I agree that was one of their worst moves, is making sure that the Chicagoans themselves were behind it. Because what did you hear every time you had a conversation with somebody? Oh, but the construction's going to be horrible.
Right.
We've already got traffic problems and all this. You're definitely right. People, the sentiment was not, oh, I can't wait till this happens because we're going to be so much better after. We weren't sold on that.
We weren't sold, and maybe the truth was that it wouldn't be better afterwards. But as far as marketing goes, I mean, at least they didn't make that case. And I don't know anybody who was really, really excited about the Olympics. I knew people who were like, yeah, it'd be cool if the Olympics came, or I don't really want it to be here. But no one really cared that much that I knew. I'm sure there were people that knew, or that did. But I just think the city could have done a better job marketing to the public, getting them pumped about it and getting them behind it. So anyway, it's easy to be a money morning quarterback on this, but that's kind of how I would have approached it had I had the shot.
At this point, I'd like to remind the community that everybody here, the best question tonight is going to win a free copy of Jason Fried's new book that's coming out in March 2010, Rework. So keep on working on those questions, and near the end, we'll pick a winner, and we'll get you hooked up with one of those books as soon as it comes out.
By the way, I saw a question. Will the iPhone app or the Highrise iPhone app cost extra? No, it will not. It will be a free app. So anyone who uses Highrise can use the iPhone app. Hey, by the way, like I said, I was totally serious. So I know we only have like a few minutes left. I'm willing to stay until everyone leaves the room. So if we can have the chat room, I'm here.
I'll get on chat real quick and see if we can extend it a little bit. I don't know if we can go full 2 hours, but we'll try.
Okay.
So everybody start throwing questions up there while I see if I can address that.
Oh, I'm just going to take a few. Let's see. I can't. There's too many now. Someone pick one. Someone pick one, and I'll just go ahead and answer it.
Good news, Jason. We just got the thumbs up. We can extend the chat.
Sweet. Excellent. I'm here as long as you guys want to be here. So.
All right.
Someone pick a few, and then I'll go ahead and answer those.
What are your thoughts on Mint.com?
Right. So the whole Mint thing kind of blew up. I wrote a post about how I was kind of pissed off that Mint sold it into it, and then I took on 2 points. I kind of railed against the VC model first, and then I took on the other point that was what happened to the new guys kicking out of the old guys. And I should have stuck to that point.
We're family safe. You got to be careful about that. Sorry.
Sorry about that. My fault.
Nashville's canceling the chat. We're done now.
I'm sorry, guys. I didn't know that. My fault.
It's okay.
I won't do it again. What happened to the new guys beating up the old guys, right? What happened to this like new generation taking out the old generation? And to me, Mint had such potential to do that. Mint, like Intuit had been sitting around with QuickBooks and Quicken and stuff for years, and they're kind of a mess. I mean, I don't really know who's really into those products. They don't really like them, but they were kind of the only option out there. Microsoft dropped Microsoft money, so it's like Intuit was the guy left. And then here comes Mint with a killer user experience, really well-designed site, really great functionality. And they just had, I felt like they had a shot to redefine that world on their own terms. And so the kind of the person who loves the underdog in me was upset to see them sell. But of course, like the other part of my point, which was one paragraph, which is that I said that I think the VCs encouraged the sale. Some people took that to think that I thought that VCs force them to sell, which was not my point at all. Nothing. I never said anything like that. I just said encourage, and I believe that they did, even though um, Aaron, the CEO, said that it was all his choice, and I believe it was all his choice. But the fundamental model that he chose, which was to raise a lot of money from the outside world and not have to worry about making money on his own, puts you in a position where you have an inflated valuation to go ahead and sell the company because you've raised so much money that the price is so big that that model, the fact that they took all this money, encouraged them to sell, even if the CEO himself just made that decision himself. Just the simple model that they were under encouraged the sale. So that was kind of my point. And I cannot blame anybody for doing what they think is right. I mean, if Aaron wanted to sell the company, it's hard to turn down a big payday. I mean, who am I to say that that was a bad idea? I was just giving my opinion on like the whole sort of, I thought we had it. I thought the next generation was going to take out the old generation. And maybe they will, because now that they're inside into it, maybe they'll change into it. But I think the history shows so far that most acquisitions do not change the host company. And in fact, a lot of products go to die. Great products go to die inside big companies. So hopefully this will be different, but that's kind of my thoughts on it.
A couple people have brought up this, the whole debate over health insurance right now, and someone just related it to the idea of going through an entrepreneurship endeavor, and is that something? That's such a hard thing to even bring up. If to take a chance and go out on your own and just forget health insurance for a while and take a risk. What percentage do you think risk taking should be in your endeavor?
Very, very small. I think the whole vision of an entrepreneur as this risk taker is kind of an old vision and should kind of go away. I think what people should do is start something on the side. So keep your day job. Don't quit your job. Don't take your life savings and pour it into a new business. Keep your day job. Spend a few hours a week at night, maybe even just 3 hours a week at night. Instead of watching TV or playing video games, just take 3 hours and build something on the side. See what happens. That's kind of what we do with Basecamp. Basecamp was a side project for us. We were doing client work, and then Basecamp eventually made more money than client work, so we stopped doing client work and started doing Basecamp full time. So the same thing can be true for you with a side project. Start something on the side, see what happens. Maybe it takes off, maybe it doesn't. If it doesn't, you haven't risked anything. If it does, maybe there's a chance for you to then give up your day job and go focus entirely on this new thing. So that's how I would suggest people do it. Don't take the big risks. Don't quit your job. Don't give it all away. Don't take all your life savings and pour it into this. Just simply start something on the side and see how it goes. If it works out, maybe you can do that full time. And if not, no big deal.
Starting to read questions here. Do you have a method for setting prices for products, or is it truly just a gut feeling of what you would be willing to pay for it?
It's mostly a gut feeling. There's obviously some basic price theory, like 49 versus 50, or if someone's going to pay 39, they're probably going to pay 49, so might as well charge at 49. There's some of that going on, and there's also some things with the way our prices are set up that each tier basically costs twice as much as the previous tier, but you get more than twice as much stuff. So maybe you get 3 times the amount of storage space or 4 times the amount of projects, but you're only paying twice as much. So there's a little bit of like math going on there, but for the most part, it's what do we think is fair? What would we be willing to pay? And of course, does it cover our costs? So there's that too. So you got to kind of weigh all those things together.
Someone just sent me a link here with a very out of focus image. A new site product thing we're working on, just a little out of focus. Any guesses? That's a little bit of a tease there. Can you tell us what we're looking at?
Yes, I
can. Actually, can I share that with the group?
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna put that in the chat box real quick. I'm told it's very important and it must be addressed. There it is, DesignChat links. Oh, by the way, DesignChat links, that's also a Twitter account that we use for DesignChat. So as we're doing the chat, we've got somebody here, Andrew, who's putting out links to anything that we talk about. So if you're thinking about this conversation later, you can go back to the Twitter account and look at those links because they're all archived there.
Can you get that picture up there, or should I just answer the question? I don't know if that works.
We put out a couple. They've already gone out in the room. I'll put it out again.
Okay. Sorry. So this is something we've been working on for a while, and it's actually a new site for web designers to help them try and find new clients, and for clients to try and find web designers. It's sort of an offshoot of our job board. So our job board is a place where employers can post jobs, and people who are looking for jobs, of course, can apply for those jobs. Um, and this is more for someone who's a small business owner, for example, who's looking to hire a web designer to do a project. And it's just for web designers, and it's just for people who want to hire web designers. So hopefully we're going to launch it next week. And we're pretty pumped about it. And I think we're going to get it out next week. So that's kind of what it's all about.
Awesome, awesome. Can't wait to see that. Can't wait, in action,
Yeah, by the way, I'm just seeing some stuff roll by about like, is it like 99 Designs or like Crowd Spring or anything like that? It's not like that. It's not a design competition. It's not multiple people competing to try and win a project. In fact, we have nothing to do with the transactions. We have nothing to do with the project itself. It's just a way to for a client to find web designers that match a certain style that they're looking for, maybe a budget range and a physical location. So that's kind of the idea, and it'll be out shortly. And it's free, and there's also a pay version as well, like everything we do.
Awesome. What do you think about Apple and Google Voice staying?
That's a weird one. I mean, I don't know what the
Yeah.
deal is with that. I don't know. I don't really care. It seems like kind of all right, again. Sort of a match between two companies just kind of yelling and screaming about stuff, and I don't know. I don't know what the truth is, and I don't really care either. It'll all get worked out in the end, I'm sure.
I totally feel the same way. It's, once all the dust settles, I want to see what comes of it and what do we get to do with it.
Yeah.
And until, that clears itself up and there's something interesting that comes out of that, I'm not going to waste time reading these stories.
Yeah, and Google Voice is cool. I got a Google Voice account. I'd love to use it on my iPhone, and I'm sure eventually it'll all work. It's just the truth. Everyone's trying to figure stuff out right now. It's like really early, and all this sort of voice over IP and phone and the whole thing, and like Google Voice and the iPhone store and the App Store. It's like so early. We're so early into this, so it'll all get worked out in due time, and then we'll all have the best of everything when that happens.
Do you plan to launch a new version of Ta-Da lists anytime soon?
No,
Oh, it
probably
could
not.
really use a rework. Oh, very nice.
It could. In some ways, Ta-Da list probably will never change. It probably is just what it is, the simplest possible to-do list maker on the web, and we'll leave it at that. There's plenty of other great tools. Remember the Milk. Gosh, I can't remember. There's a bunch of them that are really good if you need some really sort of high-end to-do list making stuff. But as far as making a dead simple to-do list on the web with no additional features, Ta-Da list is, I think, the winner.
This is Rob V. just asking an interesting question about the idea of traditional agencies and their model. Will they even be able to survive 10 years from now with how fast advertising is changing?
I think there'll be a few left, but I think the whole client services model is broken and has been broken for a long time. Clients pay a lot of money. They don't quite ever get what they want. The firm's never really that happy with what they end up delivering. Like the whole thing is just like this big compromise. So I think someone's got to come around and change that. One of the things we did when we were still doing web design is we realized that these big, huge, long projects aren't fun for anybody. No one's ultimately happy with them. So we launched this thing called 37 Express, where we would just redesign one page at a time for $3,500, I think it was, or $2,500. I don't remember what it was, in 1 week. So you give us one page to redesign, we'll redesign it in a week, we'll give you a fixed price and a fixed scope and deliver it, and that's that. And if you want another page, you'll pay another $3,500. You want another one, another $3,500. And that's kind of how we did it. It was really successful for us because it took all the risk out of it. People knew exactly what they were going to get, they knew exactly when they were going to get it, and they knew exactly how much it was going to cost. And I think that's the model that people are going to start to follow moving forward. But frankly, I also like the Crowd Spring and 99 Designs model. I think a lot of designers have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it at all. I think it's a great thing for a client. Why not get a bunch of people competing for something? We compete on everything else. We compete on phone service. We compete on which restaurant we're going to go to. Like everything is competing. Why shouldn't designers be competing in the same way? I don't really have a big problem with it. So. And I think it also gives designers a good opportunity to get their designs out there and pick up some clients when they don't have any clients. It's a great way to get started. Getting started is hard. anything that makes it easier for designers to get started, I think is a win for the industry. So I recognize it's kind of spec work, and I'm not a fan of spec work myself. I wouldn't do it, but I don't have any problem with other people doing it. If they want to do it, then that's good for them.
Happiness wants to know, Jason Fried, what breaks your heart?
Bad architecture. I hate bad architecture. It kills me when I see new buildings going up. They're just terribly ugly. That really bothers me. Also, winter. I hate winter. Winter breaks my heart too.
I couldn't pass that one up. Oh wow, they're really flying now. Do you have a favorite question yet? Do you think we have a winner in our midst for this book?
No, if I say that, no one's going to keep asking. So I've not seen any good questions yet. How about that? Just kidding. They're all good, but keep them coming. All right, so let me tell you about
South by
Groupon.
Southwest.
I will be at South by Southwest this year. We're doing a book signing at South by Southwest because our book's coming out on the 9th, and I think South by Southwest is the following week. And David, my business partner, is going to be giving a nice big huge talk also on the book itself. So we're pumped about that. I saw some bunch of stuff fly by about Groupon. We just announced today that I joined the board of directors for Groupon, Groupon.com, and I think Groupon is like one of the best and most interesting companies out today. Some companies finally figured out how to make local work. Everyone's been trying to monetize local and figure out how local is going to work, and they figured it out. And so I'm so pumped to be part of that company. I think they've got a great model. They're great people. Everybody wins. The customer wins, Groupon wins, and the local business wins. And like whenever I see stuff like that with such a simple idea, I just want to be part of it. So I'm pretty pumped about that.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That's a great move.
They're great.
At what point do you stop working on a project? After you've invested your time, have you ever had a project you had to cut your losses on?
Yeah. When we built Highrise, our contact management tool, we got about half the way through and hated it and threw it out and started over. And that was a great decision. It hurt at the time. It was painful at the time, but it was a bad product. So we threw it out and started over, and now it's a great product. It's our fastest growing product in terms of revenue now and in terms of growth, not overall revenue, but growth. And I'm very happy that we did that. So that happens all the time. And other times we'll like be working on a feature, and we'll be working on an interface for a feature and go down a road and spend 2 weeks on it and just go, this just sucks. We're not solving the right problems here, and we'll throw the work out and start over, or maybe do something much simpler. And so we do that fairly often. We try not to get too far down the road before we throw stuff out, but we throw things out regularly, and that's I think the way you have to be.
Somebody was asking
basically,
about...
the point is, let me just say, the point is like, don't be too don't be too loyal to your idea. Like if it's not good, then it's not good. Like go for the best decision, not your decision. If it's yours, great. But if it's not, then don't stick with it and don't be too loyal to your own stuff.
Great point. That's a great point. What was the one I just saw? Somebody was asking about your affiliate program. You started an affiliate program to drive usership and the success of that.
Yeah, we have an affiliate program where we pay people half the first month and then 5% of all future earnings on a particular customer. There's a couple people who are doing incredibly well with it, but most other people are just kind of, they're doing all right. I mean, I don't think anyone's getting rich off it. One or two guys is doing really well, though. They're making a lot of money, which is good. It's overall a small portion of our sales, but we're happy that people are happy to share the word and spread the word and be rewarded for it. So it's not like if I was building a product today, it wouldn't be like the first thing I would do. And it wasn't the first thing we did. We launched it like maybe a year and a half ago or so, after our products have been out for a long time. So I wouldn't make it a priority for anyone here who's thinking about building a product. It doesn't drive as many sales as you might think. But then again, we haven't really promoted it that much, so maybe it would if we did some more promotion. It's kind of hard to say.
What do you think of the Microsoft Make Your Own Windows 7 Party ad?
I'll get to that one in a second. Let me address this one about what are my thoughts about co-founders when starting a company. Do I need to find a DHH before I start? By the way, DHH refers to David Hanmeyer Hansen, for those of you who don't know him by DHH. No, you don't need to find a co-founder when you start. I mean, I started the business with three people, or with two other guys, so there's three total. And then both the other two founders left around 2003, and I ran the business by myself for a while, and then brought David in as a partner. I think in 2000, maybe seven it was. Um, I think it was 2000. So I mean, you don't have. David wasn't with 37 Signals when we started, and he wasn't with us when we built Basecamp. He was someone who was building Basecamp, but he wasn't a partner in the company. So or wasn't a founder. So you don't need someone to start a business with you. But if you find someone along the way who you think is a great fit and would add a lot as a founder, or not a founder, you can't really be a founder after the fact, but as a partner or something, then maybe it's worth thinking. But if you have an idea and you want to start on your own, I would encourage you to do so. Don't wait for someone else to join you. The
Well,
Windows 7 thing, I don't know. It's kind of silly, the whole Windows 7 thing. There goes my screen. Hang on a second, my screen.
I just had like 20 questions roll in. I don't know if I got stuck on a lag or something like that.
Oh.
But I started to read and I was like, oh man, what just happened?
So someone asked me, why don't you get an inflated valuation and exit too? We've had lots of opportunities to get a very inflated valuation. We've had opportunities to sell to big players and that sort of thing, and that's not what we're in this for. I mean, certainly that might change down the road. I don't know, but right now we want to build one of the great companies of the next 20 years. We want to be around. We want to be an Apple. We want to be a Google. We want to be a Yahoo or an Amazon or a Nike or a Starbucks or any of these great companies that have stuck around on their own to build something great. That's what we're in this for. We're not in this to flip or to sell. That's not to say that it couldn't happen, but it's not our goal at all. So that's why we're not interested in that.
You got too much fight left in you.
Fight, and like we have something we want to contribute. We think that we have some great products and we want to do it our own way, and we have things we want to share, and we just enjoy it. I mean, I don't want to go work for a big company. If someone was to buy us, I'd have to go work for someone for a while. I don't want to do that. It's not worth it to me to do that. So that's just that's not what we're interested in doing. We're interested in building stuff our own way and doing it our own way and making our customers happy, and that's what we want to do.
This one's come up a couple times. Do you have any advice for any up-and-coming designers? Sort of a, sort of a general question, but we get a lot of young designers coming to the show. So
Yeah, I mean, just designs. Sorry, damn it, I did it again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Design stuff. When I first started, I didn't have a portfolio. So people always ask me, how do you get work when you don't have any clients? Well, you make up your own clients. And that's what I did. So I would go out and redesign people's sites that didn't hire me to do it, and I would just show those off to potential clients, saying, "Hey, these guys didn't hire me to do this, but here's how I would redesign this, and here's how I'd redesign that." And so I built a portfolio of fake clients, and I told them as much. I didn't lie to them, but I told potential clients that I wasn't hired to do this, but this is what I could bring to the table, and that's what you got to do. You got to do. If you don't have clients, if you don't have a portfolio, just make your own. And the more real work you have to show, the better off you're going to be.
Jason, are there any web-based software products that are complementary or competitive to your products that you keep an eye on?
I don't really pay much attention to the competition. That's not to demean them or to say they're not good. There are, I know, lots of very, very good products out there. I just try not to pay much attention because I don't want to be someone who follows other people. I'm aware of what's going on out there, but I don't want to get in that mode where you start to get anxious, and sometimes it happens to me. Sometimes I'll hear about a feature or hear about a product that's doing well, and I'll get anxious, and I'll be like, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do this because they're doing it. And that's not what I want to do. I want to build things that make sense to us and to our customers, and not make sense to someone else's customers and someone else. We may lose some customers because of this. We may not do everything everyone wants us to do, but I'd much rather stay focused on our own vision and then try and kind of co-opt someone else's vision. So that's kind of my feeling about competition. When you pay too much attention to them, it causes you a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, and ultimately that goes in and affects your decision-making process in general. And I think it hurts you. So, you should know who they are and sort of what they're doing, but I wouldn't pay too much attention to them or sweat it too much.
DesignChat links. Andrew would like to know who designed the 37 Signals logo, and what does it mean?
So originally, the 37 Signals logo was not for 37 Signals. It was for my previous company, which was called Spin-Free, which was just me. That was my own company. And the guy who designed it is a guy named Ammon Haggerty, or Ammon, I think it's Ammon. And he used to run a site called Qaswa, Qaswa. And I hired him to design a logo for Spin-Free, and he came up with this dots thing, and I really liked it, and we ended up using that for 37 Signals. And it actually is better for 37 Signals because ultimately what the idea behind it was, it's an abstract figure, like a human being with their right hand up, looking at you saying hi, which is kind of 37 Signals, the name comes from sort of a space thing, and so it's kind of like an alien figure, but an abstract figure saying hi in a friendly way. So it kind of worked out really well for 37 Signals, but
Oh, that's very cool.
there's no real meaning behind it, but that's kind of what it sort of turned out to be.
Reading questions. We still got to come up with the winning question here. I think that's our goal for the next 10 minutes.
I'm not going to pick their winning question. You guys can pick it. So.
Oh, that's a lot of pressure, but I'll take it. Testing. Software. Cool. Come on, better questions. What's your end state goal? Is it a particular theme of products?
I don't really believe in that sort of thing in terms of like long-term goals, other than to stay in business and enjoy doing what we're doing, and make great products. I mean, that's kind of what I want to do. I don't know what our next product will be. I don't really care. And when we know what it's going to be, we're going to build it. Maybe we won't build any more products. Maybe we'll just make our existing products better. I don't really know, and I just don't think about that. I just think about kind of what we're working on now, and I have some ideas on what we might do, but for the most part, I'm worried about what we're doing now, because that's all that really matters. When you focus too much on things you may or may not do 3 years from now, you're missing the point. Like, that's not going to happen unless tomorrow happens. So nail tomorrow and nail tomorrow again, and every day, and eventually you'll be 900 tomorrows in a row will get you 3 years down the road, and that's when you'll be there and you'll know what you're doing then.
If there's one thing that you've learned and want to pass on to your kids, what would it be? From Lauren Pike.
Well, I don't have kids yet, so that's tough. I don't know. I think when I have kids, I'll know what's important to tell them, but I don't have an answer for that. I feel like I can't answer that one right now.
What would you tell your best friend's kids?
That's a really.
All right, we'll come back to it.
Let's come back to it. Don't let me forget that. But that's a really deep one. Let me think about that for a little bit.
How does 37 Signals evaluate the effectiveness of their site pages, especially from the front page?
We've done some A/B testing. We use a Google what's it called?
Analytics?
No, they have a I forget what it's called. They have a A/B testing tool. I just forget what it's called. It escapes me right now. Someone, I'm sure, Website Optimizer. Someone just said it. We use that from time to time to evaluate certain elements of the page. I typically don't like the idea of running like one big page against another big page, because you don't really know what's better about it. So we'll typically do little small things like change a button, a single button, or change a headline or something like that. So we get some ideas on that. And then we watch sales numbers, and we keep an eye on that based on changes we make, things like that. And also it's not always about, for us at least, it's not always about which performs statistically better. There's a lot of it just like, which one are we happier with? Which one do we like better? I don't think that you always have to make yourself happy through statistics. There may be things we could do on our sites to improve sales by 10%, but if I wouldn't be happy looking at those things, then I wouldn't want that thing out there, you know? So a lot of it is just like making ourselves happy, as well as making sure things are very clear and that customers get it. But it's not always just about the numbers and which one performs better.
Snappy just asked, what is the best advice you've ever received?
The best business advice I've ever received is actually from Jeff Bezos. He said, focus on the things that don't change. And typically not something you hear in the tech world, especially because things are always changing. People are focusing on new technologies all the time. Do I need to build a Facebook app? Do I need to build an iPhone app? Do I need to do a widget? Or, all this stuff that people have been talking about forever. I could care less about that stuff. I want to focus on the things in my business that don't change. For example, people aren't going to wake up 10 years from now and say, man, I wish 37 Signals products were harder to use. People aren't going to say, I wish your products were slower. People aren't going to say, I wish your products did even less and less and less. Some people might say that, but, we want to stay focused on things that really matter. So things like clarity, things like just a very simple basic feature set that just works. People are always going to need a simple way to add to-dos. I don't care how far in the future we are. Like, simple to-dos are always going to be useful for human beings. Fair prices are important. Speed is important. So we're focused on those things. And that's the best advice I've gotten for at least building a business and keeping it sane.
Useful versus innovation was actually the tweet that caught my eye the other day.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I after I responded to you, I was like, oh, I kind of sounded like a jerk. You were talking about the idea of usefulness versus innovation, and I responded something to the effect of, well, you could be useful on DesignChat this week, and I was like, oh,
well, it worked.
It
worked. I mean, that whole point was, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and read a lot about what's going on, and I just hear the word innovation far more than I hear the word useful. And I think the focus is wrong. I don't think it's anything about it being innovative. It's being useful first. And that should be the goal. Is what you're building useful? Is what you're making clear? Does people derive a benefit from it? Is it easy? Those are the things that I think are important first before innovative. And those things in themselves may be innovative. But useful should be the first goal. Innovative should be maybe the last goal. Innovation is just something that happens because you do something better than it's ever been done before. But you need to make it useful, I think, to achieve that. That's kind of what I meant.
Tawheed was asking if you weren't in the internet, in an internet business, which other industry would you pick to innovate in, or be useful in? We should ask.
Well, I would love to have been an architect, but probably landscape architecture is something that I really like. I would love to be a landscape architect. I love land and being outside and that sort of thing, and I just think that that's such a really cool thing. It really has a huge impact on your well-being when you're in an environment that's beautiful. The nature is beautiful and the physical surroundings are beautiful. So architecture, landscape architecture are the two places I'd really like to spend some time, and probably landscape architecture, because architecture is hard and physics and all that kind of stuff, and landscape architecture to me feels like it's a little bit easier to get a handle on, and I feel like I probably have a better knack for it than I would architecture. So here's one. Where did you get your confidence? I think this is a good one. I saw something recently about people talking about can you be shy and start a business, or that sort of thing. I'm actually very shy, so I don't like crowds. I'm kind of a homebody. I don't really like to go out very much. I'm not great around new people I don't know. So I'm not confident in those things, but I'm confident what I believe in. So that's sort of, when you're confident what you believe in, I think it shows. But I don't think you need to be a very super confident person or a very outgoing person or an extrovert at all. I'm definitely an introvert and typically very shy. So I don't think that that's required to be good at business.
Seismic Audio just asked, should one of your products fail or not be as popular as you had planned, how do you deal with the issue?
I don't know. I mean, like for example, Campfire is our least popular product, but it still does really well. It makes a lot of money, and we love it. And like we built it for ourselves, and we could not function as a business without Campfire. So even if no one else used it, we would use it. And so that's one of the great things, that if you build stuff for yourself, at least you get something out of it, at the very least. I mean, Campfire has been, I would say, ultimately a financial disappointment compared to our other products, but I don't find it to be a failure at all. It's a very successful product, and it's very critical to us and the people who use it. So I don't think there's anything you need to really worry about. I mean, the problem you have to worry about is when something costs more money than it takes in. That's a problem. So in that case, you probably should consider shutting something down if it's losing you money. Campfire doesn't lose us money, so we're totally happy keeping it around. And I love it. I mean, I actually think it's our best product. It's our simplest product and does like just a few things, but it's so critical to the way we do business. And I think it's actually starting to grow. Interesting, there's a lot more traffic building up with Campfire. I think people are starting to figure out what it does. So anyway, but yeah, if you're losing money on something over a long period of time, you got to cut the cord for sure. What kind of car do I drive and do I modify it? I'm not going to talk. I like Audis, so I drive an Audi, but I hate modifications on cars.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like it. I love stock cars because I think that's how the designer meant it to be, and I just kind of appreciate that about really nicely designed cars, is that this is what someone who cared about this car, who designed this car, decided it should look like. So who am I to change that? That's kind of how I look at things. What do you think about companies that still refuse to allow their employees to work remotely? I mean, I think it's worth a shot. I think it's worth trying to work remotely. It's worked out pretty well for us. But I totally get, in many ways, it's a cultural thing. You got to find the right kind of people who are comfortable doing that. So I don't blame people for being scared of it or thinking that it might not work. But I guess I do blame people for not trying it. So I would say give it a shot, see what happens, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I don't dismiss it out of hand just because it's this crazy thing that you feel like everyone needs to be in the office. It's probably not the case. So give it a shot, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Books do you recommend about the power of the history of design?
One of the books I really liked was a book. James Dyson wrote this book called Against All Odds. The guy who made the Dyson vacuum, and now that fan without the blades and the air blade and all that stuff. It's a great book. It's more of a business book, but it talks a lot about persistence in design and the things that he had to do to sell his design, and how his design was laughed at and joked about and dismissed by just about everybody in the industry, and how he just believed in it so strongly that he got it to market himself. And now how everybody in the world, everyone in that world, almost every brand in that world is trying to copy him now. And so I just think it's a great story of persistence and believing in yourself and not being pushed off track by other people who laugh at you or think you're wrong. So to me, that's a great design story, and I would recommend everybody read that. So it's called Against All Odds by James Dyson.
All right. Well, I think we've just come to a consensus here in the broadcast booth that we've got a favorite question of the night. Okay. So let's go ahead and announce that now. It goes to Snappy, and what's the best advice you received? I think there was some great insight into your relationship there. Cool. With Mr. Bezos. So Snappy, get a hold of tweet me at Hoopajoob on Twitter, HUPAJOOB. DesignChat Links is going to put that up right now. And congratulations. And the book comes out in March, so what we're going to do is we're going to put you on a pre-order from Amazon. So congratulations. I'm going to run through my thank yous real quick. First of all, big thank you to Jason Fried for spending so much time with us tonight. The extended edition of DesignChat, it was amazing. We got a little stuck in the questions here. It was a lot of fun. So thank you to also Mashable for letting us do this every week and letting us broadcast from the Mashable Chat Lounge. We love bringing DesignChat there. Thank you to Samana Mason. We are currently, I forgot to mention earlier, we're at Samana Mason right now. We broadcast from their design agency in West Dundee. A very cool design agency. Also check them out. And I'm Ryan McGovern. I'm at Hoopajoob and at DesignChat on Twitter. Some people, I forgot to introduce it at the beginning because we were messing around with the computers, but I'm a designer from Chicago, and DesignChat is every week. We talk to some of the coolest people in design, and definitely look for us next week. We're going to have Mr. Chuck Anderson of No Pattern, nopattern.com, and on Twitter he's at NoPattern. Very cool illustrator who does work for some of the biggest brands in the world. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And Jason, congratulations on all your successes. Really cool story to watch. It was a lot of fun talking to you tonight.
Thanks, guys, for having me, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to everybody and answer questions and chat with you guys. So thanks again for having me, and I'm happy to come back anytime.
Great, man. We'll talk to you soon on Twitter. Okay?
All right,
Have a good night.
See you guys.
Bye.